What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out the plane built to break Russia. This is, I'm presuming, is about the Royal Air Force Tornado, which I'm kind of excited to know more about because, firstly, I'm British and I don't know anything about this. Secondly, we've been doing a lot of aircraft recently. And this is also a new channel that we've not checked out. It's called Dark Skies. I will leave a link, as I always do, first thing in the description to the channel of Dark Skies. Go over there, give it a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you do that, please. I don't really know much about this aircraft. Considering I was in the Royal Marines Commandos, it's a bit weird that I don't know much about this. But yeah, let's watch it. Let's have some fun. Let's learn some stuff about an aircraft that I really don't know much about. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Helps with that mysterious YouTube algorithm. Other than that, let's shut up. Let's pop this up. And let's learn something new, shall we?
The Panavia Tornado was the first Royal Air Force aircraft to be fully designed for the digital age. Equipped with highly complex automated systems, the type had a remarkable advantage in electronic warfare and could easily jam or deceive enemy defenses.
So,
However,
was this just at the, it was the 1970s. So was this just when aircraft started getting all these crazy technologies? I got an inch on my back. Was it when it was just starting to get all these technologies? I don't remember. I've seen, obviously, aircraft when I was in the Royal Marines, but I never did any IDing. Like, I never learned what the aircraft was above me. Like, it's just something that we never got into. Obviously, my speciality was just boots on the ground, wasn't it? That's all we did, is just keep an eye on what's going on the ground, doing indications on the ground that we're able to do, right? So vehicles was something that we touched on a little bit. Weapons, obviously massive. But aircraft, we just never really figured out, so I don't know much about them.
the strike attack aircraft was initially conceived as far back as the 1970s, and it could carry either conventional or nuclear weapons and operate far and wide throughout Europe at an extremely low level.
Interesting. I wonder if they're still in commission.
With such state-of-the-art features, the Tornado quickly became one of the most advanced ground attack aircraft of its time and provided the Royal Air Force with a cutting-edge frontliner that was still creating havoc at the turn of the century.
Interesting. I wonder who made it. Is it Boeing?
Appeasement policy.
Appeasement
As the
policy.
1970s approached, the need for a quicker and more versatile bomber than the Vulcan became the priority of several European nations. The United Kingdom had recently cancelled the TSR-2 and
All right, the TSR-2 and subsequent F-111K aircraft. So we've done a video on the F-111. TSR-2 I know nothing about, and I'm wondering what that naming TSR, what it stands for.
subsequent F-111K aircraft, and as Richard Fairclough, a design engineer at British Aircraft Corporation, said in an interview, quote, "The overall organization and management of the Tornado project did learn an awful lot from TSR-2. Not so much what to do, but what not to do."
Yeah, makes sense.
The primary objective of the new endeavor was to create an aircraft capable of undertaking missions in technical strike, reconnaissance, air defense, and maritime roles. Many nations were initially interested in the project, including Belgium, the Netherlands, and even Canada. However,
That's interesting because you'd think Canada would just concentrate on weapons and aircraft and military gear from the US, considering they're the biggest ones and they're right next door, you'd expect.
only 3 ended up participating.
Oh, okay.
The United Kingdom, West Germany, and Italy soon formed a consortium known as Panavia Aircraft GmbH, which
Interesting.
consisted of British Aerospace, MBB, and Air Italia.
Weird.
Their engineers and designers studied several concepts for the multi-role combat aircraft, or
I knew nothing about this. I feel like this is stuff we should know about, you know?
MRCA, including alternative fixed-wing and single-engine layouts, before coming up with the final airframe. As a multi-role warplane, it was planned to replace several types of aircraft in the different air forces it would join. At the time, the Cold War demanded an aircraft capable of fielding strategic weapons that could be dropped with precision. Still, as Roland Beaumont, director of test flying at British Aircraft Corporation, put it, quote, "The whole policy of the program, whether it was right or wrong, was appeasement rather than confrontation. I think that probably is the only way you can do it in international collaboration." Having said all that, the Tornado was worked through.
Do you know what I would never want as a job? One of the people who basically test the aircraft. I think that's a horrific job.
It had its difficulties in development, but it turned out to be a brilliant operational aeroplane.
The first person to sit in that aircraft, you gotta be...
The biggest new thing.
You gotta be a little worried, aren't you?
During the Cold War, Western powers envisaged one main mission for their aerial fleets: the delivery of conventional and nuclear ordnance to the invading forces of the Warsaw Pact countries of Eastern Europe. As such, the new MRCA was intended exclusively for low-level strike missions, hoping that it would be a viable threat. As part of the requirements, the Tornado had to have solid high-speed and low-speed flight characteristics that would enable it to perform as a low-level supersonic strike aircraft. Hence, the aircraft adopted a variable sweep wing instead of a typical swept or delta one.
Interesting.
The idea was not new.
We've seen that on a few different aircraft in previous videos, haven't we?
During the 1960s, aeronautical designers explored the concept of merging the maneuverability and efficient cruise of straight wings with the sheer speed of swept back wings. It could be said that its purpose heavily influenced its design.
Interesting.
Moreover,
very bulky in the middle, this one, considering that the wings look really stubby, don't they, in a way? Excuse me.
the Tornado significantly differed from its predecessors in its multi-role versatility and more advanced systems in avionics, with its then groundbreaking fly-by-wire system that facilitated the pilot's workload and eased control. The first Tornado variant, the Interdictor Strike Fighter bomber, was the first European military aircraft to be equipped with the then innovative fly-by-wire flight controls.
I'd love to see the evolution of the cockpit of these aircraft, going from things like this, or no, even further back to maybe like the Spitfire, all the way up to like the F-35B, like the evolution of how they've changed from buttons and levers and switches all the way through to the digital kind of just one or two screens that kind of show all the stuff you need to see. Would be a very interesting video if anyone can recommend me one of them.
Chief Test Pilot Paul Millett remembered the new flight controls as, quote, the biggest new thing. He then added, quote, it was a big step in the dark, controlling aircraft purely by electronics. When you want to go high speed, you sweep the wings back. That reduces the frontal area, and you can go much faster. It also improves the gust response at low level. With the wings fully swept, you can charge along at quite high speeds and not feel a thing.
I'm wondering, because there's missiles on the wings, when the wings get swept back, because obviously they go back. How can I explain this? So like, how can I do it? They're kind of like this, right, with a missile on it, and they go back like this. So do the missiles stay forward, or do they come with it? Do you get what I'm saying? I wonder what happens there with the missiles, or whether they're even able to deploy the missiles when the wings are swept back.
It is an extremely good low-level attack, without any doubt at all. Different variants, same philosophy.
This video is really
the first
good.
development aircraft flew on August 14th, 1974, at Munching, Germany, with Millett at the rudder.
It's a very good video so
Afterward, he expressed, quote, aircraft handling was delightful. The actual flight went so smoothly that I did begin to wonder whether this was not yet another simulation. Still, the test revealed the need for minor modifications, and the contract for the first batch was signed on July 29th, 1976.
So successful. Obviously, the plane was successful considering that it's been used for so long. I'm wondering if this has started to be decommissioned. Though. You're looking like 50 years ago nearly. Do you know what I mean?
The first deliveries to the Royal Air Force and German Air Force started in June of 1979, and the first production aircraft flew on July 10th.
So
However, the first
45
Italian
years ago.
Tornado was not delivered until the fall of 1981.
Wow.
The standard air vehicle approach yielded the logistics, training, and cost benefits of a single aircraft type, and a family of mission variants soon branched out. Such models were optimized for different roles to keep the combat effectiveness of a range of specialized equipment.
Interesting.
The core version, the IDS, was designed for ground attack, but it retained anti-shipping and reconnaissance capabilities at extremely low altitudes. Beaumont explained, quote, the Tornado IDS was designed as a specific one-task low-level strike airplane, with the additional capability of elaborate advanced reconnaissance. Therefore, its philosophy was of high wing loadings, tough structural strength, very fast low level, and nobody worries too much about what goes on with the altitude. The version used by the Royal Air Force was designated GR1 and later upgraded to GR4.
There's a place you can go. There's one in the Lake districts, and there's one I think in Wales where you can climb onto but essentially is a small mountain, like a hill, and you're high enough that the planes are below you, and apparently you can get some really good visuals there on aircraft, I might go. There's videos on YouTube of it. I might go and take my son, because he loves this stuff. He loves watching these videos, and get some footage for the channel.
In Italy kept the IDS identification. Meanwhile, the UK advocated for a specific need to defend large stretches of airspace in the north, and focused on securing excellent endurance capabilities, as well as improved standoff air-to-air missile armament. In response, Panavia developed a specialized fighter version for long-range interception, the air defense variant, designated F3.
It's interesting to see how many variants you get on these aircraft, because it seems like a lot, doesn't it? It's almost as if the more variants you can get out of an aircraft, the longer the aircraft is commissioned for. That seems to be the way. The more customizable it is, the more effective it is, which is like anything in the military. The more you can adapt it to different needs, the longer it lasts. That's the same thing with anything, really.
In Italy, they developed another version specifically for reconnaissance and the location and suppression of enemy anti-aircraft systems.
Interesting.
Germany formulated the requirements in the early 1980s, and within a decade, the Tornado ECR, or Electronic Combat and Reconnaissance, was created. The new variant retained the capabilities of the older IDS, but received upgraded electronic warfare equipment, more suitable for the new millennium.
Makes sense.
Core advantages.
These videos are great. I love how they
service life, the Tornado carried nuclear weapons to use against Soviet bloc forces. However, those weapons evolved from freefall to more sophisticated ones over the years. Cleared to carry the majority of air-launched weapons in the NATO inventory, the Tornado could convey unguided and laser-guided bombs, anti-ship and anti-radiation missiles, and many specialized weapons such as anti-personnel mines and anti-runway munitions.
So yeah, it has got a lot of versatility there when it comes to different types of munitions, which is incredibly important. Again, adapting is incredibly important. If you can change the loadout, what missiles these aircraft carry, depending on what you're trying to achieve, is incredibly important.
For added survivability in combat, the MRCA had onboard countermeasures like flare and chaff dispensers, but also electronic systems like underwing pods. In contrast with some American aircraft like the F-14 or F-111, the Tornado featured mechanically attached hardpoints on its wings. Then, as the wings swept back, the pylons rotated, and the weapons kept facing the direction of the flight, regardless of the degree of the sweep.
There you go. That answers my question about what I said earlier. So they do rotate the ammunition, which I think is incredibly important. But it's also interesting that they can deploy these munitions when the wings are back, because technically when the wings are back, you're going crazy fast, aren't you? That's the whole point of being swept back, these wings, is that you can go faster. So to be able to shoot and go them speeds is pretty impressive, let's be honest. I'd love to know the stats of the top speed and the record in commission, and you know, like what it's managed to achieve in commission through downing other aircraft or whatever. I'd love to know that.
In addition, the aircraft incorporated a combined navigation and attack Doppler radar that conducted simultaneous scans for targets and fully automated terrain following for level operations. Its all-weather, hands-off, low-level flight capabilities were indeed one of the Tornado's core advantages. The cockpit housed a crew of two, a pilot in front and a navigator in the rear. While the pilot took the air vehicle to any given destination, the navigator behind him called the way. At first, he consulted a lot of maps, but it was later upgraded to cassettes plugged into the cockpit.
Cassettes? Oh my god, later upgraded to cassettes? Wow.
As such, the navigator position morphed into a weapons system operator. Chief designer John Waite later recalled, quote, "He said, right, well, we've got to get rid of some of this fuel, so we can either dump it or we can have some fun." So we whipped up into the Yorkshire Dales, and he said, "Now I'll show you the terrain following radar." He picked the Dales, going across them, and he stuck it into hard right at something like 400 knots with a 100-foot clearance.
Woo.
All it was rocks, heather, rocks, heather, rocks, heather, sky, rocks, heather, rocks. That's all I could see in front, and he was sat there in the front cockpit with his hands on his head. So I mean, this was Tornado at its best. It really was.
That's pretty cool.
The Tornado's backbone.
That's pretty cool.
The Tornado had a distinguished operational history. With its original desert pink paint, the GR-1 Foxy Killer flew more bombing missions than any other RAF Tornado during Operation Granby in 1991,
The year I was
conveying
born.
huge JP-233 runway denial weapons. 2 decades later, the more advanced GR-4 served in Operation Ellamy in 2011,
Oh, at least they were still using them in 2011? That's crazy.
forcing the no-fly zone over Libya, while flying from bases in Italy. The improved version was armed with the Brimstone launcher, which enabled it to hit individual targets like soft-skinned vehicles with each missile.
That's crazy that it was still being used
Despite
then.
being initially designed to carry nuclear weapons, the Cold War-era aircraft ended up serving in modern conflicts like Afghanistan, Yemen, and Syria, as well as Bosnia and Kosovo.
Wow.
Notably, the Royal Saudi Air Force became the only export operator besides the original.
Interesting.
Overall, 990 aircraft were built across all variants.
Yo, that's a lot. 990? Oh my god. Wow.
And the RAF retired the legendary aircraft in the spring of 2019 and celebrated
Yo, look at all the badges there for the different Air Force. That's really cool. Almost looks like the Globe and Laurel, the Globe and Laurel for the Royal Marines, doesn't it? 2019, it was done with. Had a long life, didn't it? Oh my god.
it with several special performances. It was then replaced by variants of the Eurofighter Typhoon.
Which we haven't done a video yet. If you want me to do a video on the Eurofighter Typhoon, let me know in the comments. We've got to do a video on it at some point.
Ultimately, the Tornado was the backbone of the Royal Air Force for the best part of 4 decades.
That's
always
crazy.
on the front line, wherever the air service went.
What an absolutely
Thank you for watching my
fantastic
video.
video.
Don't hesitate to subscribe to Dark Skies and all our Dark Documentaries channels for many more military-inspired stories and true anecdotes from recent history.
Check out their videos. I will leave a link down below. It will be the first thing in my description. Go over there, give it a like, subscribe. What a great channel. Really enjoyed that. Some really good information. I don't think we've done Dark Skies before. Maybe we have. That was a solid video. Really enjoyed that. Learned something about the Typhoon, the Tornado, which I never knew about, which is very interesting. What else have I got to say? Enjoyed going live yesterday. If you enjoyed that, let me know. We'll do it some more. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Helps with that YouTube algorithm that we know nothing about. And other than that, I'll see you in the next video. I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.